Hello all my Kenvians and welcome to the finale of Series 1 of Torchwood, or rather, Discovering Torchwood. Yes, today I'm going to be watching End of Days, which, like I said at the end of the previous video, is a pretty decent little end of the world movie. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I remember it being pretty okay. It had good music, but that's besides the point. Today I'm going to be watching End of Days right now, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Season 1 of Torchwood ends. So, let's get right into it. A little creepy. Oh my. Okay, so they're doing better. That's good. That's a good thing. Of course they are.
This is not the end of the world.
Well, I would certainly hope not. Otherwise, how do you explain the rest of the Doctor Who series and the rest of the Torchwood show? Sorry.
And all your staff have feelings, Jack. Even Owen.
Well, you would know.
Dang!
He brought you back. Would you rather be stuck in World War II?
Jack is being a total douche.
What?
I've got bumps on the skin, chills, fever, headaches, along with black patches on the skin.
Indicating bleeding into the skin, possibly other organs.
Oh, it's the Black Plague.
To other patients who've been in reception when she came in.
That woman that isn't from this century. More like the 14th. Is the Black Death, Tosh.
Black Death, Black Plague, basically the same thing, I think.
Cardiff A&E with the plague.
That wasn't creepy at all.
Tosh!
Oh. His girlfriend, Lisa.
Jack Harkness! You don't even exist. We've looked. So, if you're not even a real person, then why the hell should I follow your orders? Get out. What? Get out! I'm relieving you of your duty.
No, you can't do that.
Bollocks, you are!
Jack, wait.
Jack? Wow, what is with Jack?
You're done here. If I can't rely on you, if I don't have your complete trust, you don't belong here. That goes for the rest of you.
Yeah, Jack, that's a great time to decide that when everything is going to crap. I think this is the first time I actually cannot stand Jack.
Trace the temporal activity around this location. We need to find out where he is. Come on.
So Bilis said to open the rift. Ah, hi again. Oh no. Oh no.
What did you just show me? Bring me back. Open the rift.
Okay.
You want another drink there, mate?
I have a feeling that all of these are like... I feel like they're connected to Bilis. Like he is somehow having those people appear. Oh no. Is a weevil gonna get to him? Bilis. Bilis is gonna murder him.
Gwen's boyfriend?
Oh! Oh, that is cold-blooded. It's like he's setting everything up to go in a certain way.
We can bring it back.
I have to say, of anyone on this show, I did not expect him to be the one to die.
We'll deal with it.
Gotta be something that you can do. Otherwise, what's the fucking point of you? No, bring it back. Bring it back. Bring it back. Stand me down with fucking hardness. Do you?
Oh my god.
I'm up in the rift.
Oh, and they're all convinced. Bilis has convinced them all, and Gwen has no other choice. Oh my god.
Bilis was right. She said open the rift and everything goes back to normal.
Yeah.
I was right.
Does she go? The poor girl who's scrawny passing alien that gives her a pendant? Oh wait, so strong he gets in the cage with a weevil, desperate to be mauled.
Is this really necessary?
Cyber girlfriend in the basement. Your 3 comrades here pump bullets into her, remember?
I've got to get Reese back.
Yeah. If you're so in love with Reese that you spend half your time in Owen's bed.
Fuck you!
Dang!
Come on, Captain! We're opening up!
That was one of the... Oh, that was one of the myths that... Or, was it from the... I don't know what book it was from, but it was one of the things that Ianto was reading. Oh, he meant quite literally. Quite literally, die underneath the shadow. Oh my god. Wow. This is like this is like the episode of Doctor Who with the parasite, the sun parasite thing. Only this is a lot more visceral. And clearly much more painful. If there's one thing I know about Jack Harkness...
You're here. Just a minute. You're here.
Dramatic moment, and... I knew it. Jock is back! Hopefully less of a jerk. I was gonna be annoyed if they waited until, like, the next season to be like, oh yeah, he's still alive.
I forgive you.
What would have tempted you? What visions would have convinced you to open the rift?
The right kind of doctor.
The right kind of doctor. Oh. The right kind of doctor.
retcon.
And here we have an extra coffee! Or no, yes, an extra coffee! Who's going to drink it? No one likes it the way Jack does. Oh, and there we go. End of season/series 1 of Torchwood. Alright, so yeah, a lot of thoughts. I'm just gonna get right into it with my notes, and I will see you all for the review portion of this video. Alright, on my convenience, welcome back, and it's time for the review portion of the Series 1 finale of Torchwood, and I gotta say, there's a lot to cover here. I had quite a few favorite parts, and of course we will get into some annoyances, which I definitely have some. I'm interested to see what you all think of those annoyances for sure, but as always, let's get right into it with my favorite parts. The first of which is the fact that Gwen and Reese seem to be doing much better. Like, much better, especially at the beginning of this episode. I mean, I'm sure that there's still going to be, like, relationship issues that they might have to work with as the show goes along, but at the same time, they seem to be doing so much better than they had in any of the previous episodes after, like, she started hooking up with Owen. Which I actually don't know if that'll ever get brought up again, since, like, she admitted it and did the retcon thing. So who knows whether or not that'll actually ever even be brought up again, but, well, you all know better than I do. But yeah, I'm just very glad to see that they were doing much better. Except for the whole knocking him out with a taser and then putting him in a cell thing. That could certainly be a damper on the relationship, although apparently not. I'll get to that a little bit. But yes, Gwen and Reese, great part of the episode. I'm so happy to finally actually have them in my favorite parts as a positive thing again in an episode. And moving on from there, my next favorite part is just the whole concept of the conversion of the timelines from the rift. Just how from the rift being opened, as little as it was, is sort of splintering out into different areas of the world, and apparently having massive effects, because not only are they getting Roman soldiers from the past and the Black Plague of all things, they're also having space aliens come in, which is kind of a weird thing, because it does make me question how entirely the rift works, because yeah, it has some things to do with time, but at the same time there's the weevils and then these alien flying saucers, which Lord knows how those were taken care of. Maybe like the whatever branches of Torchwood are still active, I don't know. But yeah, just the whole conversion of the timelines and how that was just going to chaos, I really liked that. And my next favorite part is mostly because I could relate to this, and it is when Gwen's friend Alan, I believe his name was, I forgot to write it down, but when he refers to her reassuring smile, and how she always makes that smile, and she'll say something funny to help put people at ease, to help them, feel better when things are going to crap. Which is, I mean, I don't know, I may not be good at that kind of thing, but that's what I try to do. I mean, that's what I try to do in a lot of situations, especially if something is going bad or things just don't go according to plan. I always try to, like, be reassuring as much as I possibly can. So, like, I like that part because of how much I could just relate to that particular aspect, even though it didn't really have a lot to do with the plot as a whole. But, my next favorite part is just, I know I referred to this in a previous point, but the fact that the Black Death returns. And I mean, there have been movies that have touched on, like, widespread viruses and what they could do to, like, the world, or at the very least a country, not including zombie movies, but there have been all kinds of stories like that regarding different illnesses, and sometimes, like, they seem related to the Black Death. So for them to actually incorporate the Black Death, or as it's more commonly known in the US, the Black Plague, I found that to be a really interesting point, and I admittedly, I don't know, maybe this will come down to one of my annoyances a little bit later, but I wish there had been a little bit more focus on that almost, or I wish that maybe the events that transpire over these episodes had taken place over a few more episodes. I'll probably touch on that a little bit more here in a bit, but the fact that the Black Plague was there, I really like that, found it really interesting. Now, my next favorite part was the visions, essentially, as it got called there at the end. But Tosh sees a vision of her mom, Ianto sees a vision of Lisa, Owen sees a vision of Diane, and then, well, before Owen, Gwen had a vision of Reese dying, which I thought was sort of like how a Time Lord, I think, I might be thinking wrong as to what their actually abilities are, but being able to show part of the future. Now, I'm assuming that Bilis, yes. I'm assuming Bilis isn't a Time Lord. I don't know what the heck he is. Some little dark minion of Abaddon. But, yeah, just like those visions, I found it was really interesting how it played into the whole plot of everything. Like, basically, Bilis was using those visions in order to manipulate the members of Torchwood other than Jack into opening the rift, or making them think that that's the only way to set things right, to set things back to normal, and possibly they get their loved ones back. And then, of course, Gwen, when it comes to that point, I mean, she didn't get like a vision like the others did, but at that point, Bilis had already told her that, in order for things to go back to normal, that they would have to open the rift. So at that point, she has nothing left. I mean, she feels she has nothing left to live for. The love of her life is gone. And unbeknownst to her, Bilis just murdered him in cold blood. Which I didn't... I assumed he was going to die somehow, but I didn't see that happening in particular. I assumed that when his door opened, maybe one of the other Weevils would get out and it would kill him. I mean, that seemed to make more sense to me. But then, once Bilis comes out and stabs Reese, I mean, it's pretty clear, or it was pretty clear to me, what he was doing. And then it just solidified it even more when Owen had his vision of Diane, and once again, the rift was mentioned. So, yeah, that was just insane. But my next favorite part is actually, it's immediately following the death of Reese. And I'm going to say this. I know I'm really bad at remembering the actors' names, and I can't remember the actor's name that plays Gwen. But the way she portrayed grief, and the way that she just, when she sees Reese's dead body, and the way she reacts, that sent chills down my spine. Like, that was just... It was believable. Had I not known this was a TV show, I would have legitimately believed that she had just lost someone she loved entirely. That she just lost the person she loved the most. And then afterward, when she's in shock and grieving and apparently feeling very spiteful toward the others, I assume because of the shock, just everything about her performance in that regard was believable. And I found that truly, truly well done. That was probably the absolute best part of this entire episode, honestly. And although I've enjoyed a fair amount of the series, probably some of the best acting in the show, to be completely honest. But again, that's just my feelings on it. But that was just, yeah. But then moving on from there is when Owen returns after having been fired or let go. And the decision is made by Owen to open the rift, because that is what Diane told him in his vision. And then rather than taking Jack's side and trying to stop Owen, everyone else takes Owen's side. It's like, because the visions that they've seen and Gwen's grief of just wanting to do anything to bring Reese back just overpowers any logic they might have had regarding the situation. And just the way that plays out. And I'll touch on a little bit of this more, but I mean, obviously Jack wasn't exactly being nice to everyone, but man, Gwen's got a hell of a hook. That was a phenomenally acted out punch. I mean, it was clear that it was, a bit choreographed and not perfectly done, but just the way it played out in conjunction with the emotion and the anger of what all was going on, it worked really well. And I mean, Gwen just knocks him on his butt. I'm trying to be somewhat clean here, I apologize. But knocks him on his butt and onto his back. And then Owen shoots Jack. Again, for reasons that I'll touch on more in my annoyances, but I mean, Owen just flat out shoots Jack in the head and then into the chest like 2, maybe 3 times. And I don't know, I didn't see that part coming. I figured it was going to be a deal where maybe Owen knocked him unconscious with the butt of the gun or something, but I didn't expect him to actually shoot him. Which, then of course brings us, we see everyone's reaction, however short-lived, of Jack coming back to life. Which helps that they are kind of, under an emergency when the rift opens and the hub is being destroyed. But that helps with the, afterward when he comes back to life again. But, when the rift opens, it's like one of the things that really caught my eye, and it's one of the things that's repeated over and over from both the visions and really all the characters having to do with getting the rift open, and that is everything is going to go back to normal. That's what they truly believe. That's what they were convinced by these people that they love. And Bilis. But it's like that firm belief that everything is going to go back to normal. Everything would be made better. And yeah, that was just a really powerful aspect of it. I am admittedly a bit surprised that the hub isn't more destroyed than it ended up being at the end of the episode, because it seemed like everything was kind of blowing up at the time, but clearly not, which is good for Torchwood because they still have a place to work. So yeah, when the rift opens there, and then my next favorite part, Abaddon, the Great Devourer, or however, whatever. But the creature itself, I thought, was designed pretty well. I do have an issue with the transition from the first time we see it sort of lurching over the others, but apparently not in its shadow. And then the next scene where we see it over, like, just as big, if not bigger, than Godzilla in size. It's like, it felt like a little bit of inconsistency based on the computer graphics. That's just me, but overall, I like the design of Abaddon. And the fact that that people literally die in its shadow. I thought that was actually a really clever idea. It kind of makes the other destruction that he wreaks seemingly a bit, unnecessary. But the fact that simply being in his shadow kills someone, I thought was pretty brilliant. I don't know, maybe some people think it's kind of a cop-out, but overall I thought it was pretty well done. Even if it did look kind of fakey when some people just kind of rolled over it. I don't know. It didn't always look that convincing, but as a scene as a whole, it was good. My next favorite part is when Jack actually confronts Abaddon. And it's mostly because, and again, I mentioned this in the reaction, but it's basically the way that the Doctor confronted the parasite, like the parasite son or whatever it was. And yeah, I mean, I find it interesting. I'm curious whether or not that was actually then Moffat or whoever wrote that episode sort of stealing the idea from Torchwood, maybe. But yeah, so the fact that there is that parallel between those situations, I really liked. Of course, it is clearly much more painful for Jack, unless just the Doctor has a higher tolerance for pain. But having the life like continually stripped from him was clearly a much more painful ordeal for Jack than the Doctor having his memories taken away, or some of his memories taken away, or some of his life force. I still don't entirely know how that worked out, but that's Doctor Who, not Torchwood. Moving on from there, my next favorite part is it's basically the entire ending sequence, starting with when Gwen stays with Jack's body the entire time. It's a very emotional sequence. It's a very powerful sequence. Like, she isn't giving up on him. She believes that he will come back, even though they're waiting for days at a time. Which, again, kind of makes me call into question whether or not she went home after she told Reese she would be home. But I'm assuming she did, since, again, it takes place over several days. Otherwise, then it's just more issues with that relationship. But during that time, it's like we get that tiny little scene of Ianto Morning grabbing Jack's coat, and I mean, it could be that he's smelling it to kind of like, get that memory of Jack, or just holding it to his face, like, as he's crying. Either way, that really worked for me. And then, of course, when Jack wakes up, the elation that everybody has, and then the final, it's not a confrontation, but when Owen and Jack finally, come face to face, and Owen just is so distraught he can't even get the words out. But Jack says that he forgives him, which, again, it's like, there are going to be certain issues with this episode that I'm going to mention, but I just thought that was a really good, nice, solid way to end the episode and end the series. But of course, that does bring us to my final favorite part of this episode, and that is when the hand starts reacting. And shortly thereafter, it is clear that Jack has gone off with the Doctor to join the Doctor and Martha at the end of Series 3 of Doctor Who. Or near the end of Series 3. So yeah, overall, from the favorites alone, there's a lot I really enjoyed about this episode. Again, with some caveats, but still, it's like there's a lot to like about this episode. However, I do have issues. And like I said before, I'm curious to see what you all think of my annoyances with this one. Starting with Jack's just blatant attack on Owen. And, I mean, okay, yeah. Owen was, as part of Torchwood, as Jack says in the episode, you know, they're told to never mess with the rift, to never do anything to the rift because of how volatile it is. But at the same time, had Owen not done that, even though it was technically for selfish reasons to try and hopefully get Diane back, or having a way to possibly get Diane back, if it wasn't for Owen doing that, they might have still been stuck in the 1940s and never would have made it home. So I can see Jack being angry about it, but it seemed like such a petty thing to do, to just all of a sudden start attacking him in front of everyone. Which brings me to my next annoyance, and that's when Jack just flat out fires Owen. Which, again, I understand, especially if you are the head of, you know, that department, that you don't want to take insubordination lightly, but at the same time, Owen was talking sense. Because Jack is clearly, you know, he's been lying to them. He's been lying to them about a lot of stuff. Probably stuff I don't even know about at this point. But then it's just like, all of a sudden, he just flat out fires him. That felt, I don't know, it felt like he was jumping the gun a bit much. And I actually didn't write this one down as an annoyance, but I'm going to add it in too. But the way Jack just starts attacking all of the other members of Torchwood, it's like when they're thoroughly convinced that the only way to bring things back to normal, for Gwen to save Reese, for, you know, just things to go back to normal, that he just starts insulting them. Like, flat-faced insulting them, just mercilessly. And I still don't understand why. I still don't understand why he was doing that. Again, I understand being angry. I understand, you know, saying what you need to take charge, but that was just petty. All of that was just petty crap that got him punched in the face and shot, basically. Because even then, when Owen has the gun trained on him, Jack is still being a jerk. And just because of how volatile that entire situation was, basically was responsible for him getting shot. Again, even though he wouldn't die from the gunshot, but they didn't know that at the time. But still, it just, there was so much about Jack. Actually, I think maybe just for the most part, I would say 75% of Jack in this episode was a huge annoyance for me. Like, you could take basically all those last three and say, again, approximately 75% of Jack in this episode was an annoyance, which doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel right that this character who, again, is like, you know, he has his mysterious side, he has his dark side, but then all of a sudden, just in this episode, he's just being a child. I did not like that. And that was definitely the biggest issue I have with this entire episode. Yeah, so those three combined into one, definitely my biggest annoyance, my biggest issue with this episode. Now moving on from there, my next annoyance. And, I mean, in a way I can kind of get how it works, but still, Reese is suddenly alive again. And yes, he disappeared when the rift opened, but still, at the same time, just because of all the chaos that was going on and everything that was happening, how does it make sense that suddenly Reese is alive again and he's back at their apartment, and it seems that he is back at a point that was like just before Gwen tasered him to knock him out? Just, that doesn't add up to me. And I'm curious whether or not they might sort of explore that a bit more as to how he is suddenly alive again when he was very clearly, again, dead, stabbed to death. And, you know, in that regard, things went back to normal for Gwen, but for the others, life just goes on. Nothing changed. So yeah, that really bothers me, and I do hope we at least get a little bit of information as to that, or how that might have happened in the next series. But moving on to my final annoyance, moving on to my final annoyance with this episode, and again, it may be something that is addressed in the next series, but there's seemingly no fallout to Abaddon's rampage. Like, he went across a fair portion of that city, and there were a lot of people that died. Like, seemingly you don't even have to be in his direct shadow. If you fall, like if you're hiding and you fall under its shadow, you're dead. At least that's how it was shown by the custodian or janitor, the cleaning guy that hides under the arch. It's like he doesn't get touched by the shadow, but when Abaddon's shadow goes over where he is, he dies. So, and again, that leads to more questions for me, because if there is no fallout from all of that, is it because that, like Reese, all of a sudden those people are brought back to life in the aftermath? Could that be the case? Probably not, because that happened after the rift was opened, and Reese disappeared when the rift was opened, or his body did, rather. So yeah, it bothers me that there's seemingly no real fallout to it, other than, you know, Jack having temporarily died long term, for him anyway. And yeah, I hope they do address it at least a little bit, because for them to open up the episode with all of those newscastings and this and that, and then for a giant demon to suddenly appear where people die in its shadow, and then we don't get any word from that afterward, I find it really strange. But who knows, maybe like the fallout occurred during that time that Gwen was waiting, or something like that. I don't know. But it's still just a big annoyance for me in an episode that, I mean, overall it's pretty strong, but I do still have those annoyances. But moving on from there, I do have some questions, one of which I'll just go ahead and get out of the way, even though it's not in order. How is Reese alive again? How? I really want to know. But I guess I'll either find out or I won't. But I guess you would say my real question for the end of this episode is, does Series 2 have any episodes that take place before Jack returns? Like, are we going to have a period in the first few episodes where it's just Gwen, Tosh, Ianto, and Owen? And I think that would be pretty interesting, to have that period where, like, maybe we would have flashes to what might be going on with Jack at the time, or maybe if Jack does come back in the first couple of episodes, that we get sort of flashbacks of what all they went through or what all was going on while he was gone. I don't know. I'm really curious about that, and I guess I'll find out as soon as I get into the second series. But yeah, so that's my question for the episode, other than how is Reese alive again? But moving on from there, my track of the episode, I definitely just have to say that it is the end track when the Doctor returns, or when we can hear the TARDIS and we hear that beautiful dramatic music that probably plays through the rest of the episodes of Torchwood as well. But it really fit that moment, and it worked so very well. So yeah, that's my personal track of the episode here. Quotes of the episode. The biggest one would definitely be, and it was said by various characters, but simply, "Open the rift." And it was, I think, around the second time I heard that being mentioned, that I started to catch on to. It's like, maybe like these visions are related to Bilbo Baggins, Bilis, might be related to him, and it's just like it opened the rift. It's like it seemed like there was too much consistency there, perhaps, except for maybe Tasha's mom, because she never mentioned the rift, I believe. She just said, open it, something along those lines. But yeah, just the use, like, saying that the rift needed to be opened, it piqued my curiosity and made me question what was actually going on there. That or it could have been just ghosts, I don't know, but it wasn't. My second quote of the episode comes from Bilis himself, or Bilbo Baggins, as I think I might call him from now on. But from out of the darkness he is come. And that just, I don't know, that was, I mean, it was a very over dramatic scene from Bilis to say, you know, to be sure, but I don't know, it felt like the proper conclusion to the running phrase that had been going on through several of the last few episodes. And there's something in the dark coming this way, or there's something in the dark and it's coming, something along those lines. But for it to, like, you know, be concluded with that phrase, or that sentence, from out of the darkness he has come, I just thought that was really appropriate, and I thought it was a well done line. Again, for as creepy as the Bilis character is, the guy that plays him does a good job, and he's clearly a good actor. And then finally, my last quote of the episode is just a very simple one, and it's when Jack is back and Gwen is asking him, you know, what could have convinced him to open the rift. And Jack says, the right kind of doctor. And then, of course, we move on to the hand reacting, and Jack runs off to join the doctor on a little adventure. So, yeah, that was a really good quote in my opinion, and I mean, something that could very easily just be looked over, but again, if you know Doctor Who, you would know to look out for it. But, I mean, overall, I don't really have a theory going forward unless you include that question I had, which is, like, that we might have episodes taking place before Jack returns. So, yeah, I'm just going to leave that as a question. But as for my overall thoughts on this episode, I thought it was a strong end to a okay season. An overall okay season. But in the end, again, despite the annoyances I had, and even some of the caveats I had for my positive points, it was overall a pretty strong episode. It was definitely one of the, I would say, top 5 episodes of this entire series, which, you know, only being 13 episodes isn't that hard, but still, it's still pretty high up there in my opinion. So yeah, overall, pretty darn good. And as always, everyone, if you have any of your own favorites and annoyances, track of the episode, or even quotes that you want to voice, please let me know what they are in the comments down below. And yeah, this is the end of Series 1. Craziness. Took me long enough, considering it's only 13 episodes. I apologize for that, by the way. But, if you all don't know the plans for going forward with Torchwood, I will be sure to address them in the next episode, which will be my Series 1 recap. And from there, I will explain how we'll be moving forward with Torchwood and other Doctor Who related media. But yeah, I'll just leave it there. Until next time, everyone, for the Series 1 recap, I am Papa Ken, and as always, Allons-y!